Right now.
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 Right.
Right now.
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 Because it's time to write now.
Right 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 now.
Right.
Right now.
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 Right.
All right. Welcome, writers, to a late night writing session. Tonight, as in all other streams, I'm going to continue working on the third draft of The Last Scarecrow. I'm going to take you behind my process as I am doing a live reading and a line edit. This is the third draft. This is where I try to cut down on wordiness, where I try to adjust style, and I make certain developmental adjustments and changes. So feel free to come join, drop a comment, listen in if you're just wanting to kick back and hang out, or come join this late night co-working session. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Kaufman, daily writing streamer, soon to be fantasy author, and dragon enthusiast. So let's do it because I'm ready to write now. Okay, and as you can see, I already have my writing software also. All right, so I am golden. So let's see. So the past couple of days, we had community update on Monday, Stern Critique Show on Sunday. So it's been a few days since I've been able to make progress on Scarecrow, which means gotta knock out a whole chapter today. Now, where are we at? Coliseum of the Last. We got 6 chapters left in Act 2. All right, I just got to push and get into it. I've gone through the first half of this chapter a few times now because I knew that it needed some style adjustments. I feel pretty good about the first half, but we have to see how it flows with the rest of the chapter. So let's get into it and see what we see. Chapter 23, Coliseum of the Last. Scarecrow bashed his head against a rock as the collar flared. A burning pain ripped through his arms, legs, and chest like a maddening inferno, on fire without burning alive. Out of breath, world spinning, time losing all meaning. When it ceased, he rolled onto his back, tapping the smooth obsidian plate of the collar around his neck. Nothing happened. He breathed a sigh of relief as Gore's paw, blurry at first, helped return him to his feet. Keep moving. Keep moving, or one of them keys will use the collar again, the grizzly grumbled. Keys? The grizzly reached for his collar and huffed. That's what they call themselves now. That's what these monkeys call themselves. Now move. That's what these primates call themselves. Now move. Scarecrow nodded weakly. His vision stayed blurry as he rubbed his eyes. He watched the keys and their colored metals and waist sashes march past on either side of them. One in particular caught his attention. A patch of triangular white fur circled one eye, and a familiar torn knee-length coat hung from their shoulders. Was taking his coat truly necessary? At least they didn't care about his hat. He looked around, pulling it tighter about his head. Yet. A hoot rang out near the front of their line, and the procession carried on. Sighing, Scarecrow forced himself to keep moving. A breeze swept across the cool night air. He shivered. Ahead of them, 3 keys poked at an oddly striped collar. Ahead of them, 3 keys poked at an oddly striped collared zebra. They hooted at the animal mockingly until the prisoner moved. One of the keys glanced back down the line, causing Scarecrow to look away. The distant moon taunted him with its freedom amidst a cloudless, starry night sky. How many rotations had it been since the pit? 3? 4? Hard to tell. Behind them, the canyon sloped down from where they had traveled. Ridges towered high in all directions, trapping them within the massive, barren wasteland. Large boulders rose up on one side, while cracked earth marked the other. How was he already a prisoner again? Scarecrow could already hear Pebble's words in his mind. Told you so, Strawbrain. Scarecrow looked back to Gore, who had returned to pawing in the air vigorously, as if he were drawing a masterpiece from memory. Without looking up, the grizzly muttered, "I've been pontificating, Scarecrow. Answer this. Answer me this." The grizzly looked to him, hazel eyes sparkling in the moonlight with perplexed curiosity. The grizzly looked up. The grizzly looked to him, hazel eyes sparkling in the moonlight with perplexed curiosity. "What do you see around us?" "The animals?" "Prisoners? Animals?" "Truth. What type?" Scarecrow rose onto his tiptoes, looking up and down the line of prisoners. A white and black bear near the front? "The panda?" Scarecrow nodded. Somehow he should have known that. He remembered more with each step, yet that never felt like enough to fill the gaps in his mind. Who else? He scanned the line of prisoners in both directions, picking them out at random. A turtle the size of, well, us, a golden-spotted jaguar with eyes of fire, a long-necked... He paused, squinting at the darkly spotted creature towering above the rest of them. Giraffe, he snapped, proud of remembering. They were met with the snort of a wide-eyed raccoon, coated in brown and white furry rings, who growled back angrily. 2 keys looked in their direction, stomping the ground. Scarecrow averted his eyes and shuffled along. They soon trampled through tufts of graying knee-high grass. The starlight cascaded across the temporary change in landscape. The last time he had seen grass was with Pebble and Mr. Crow. He hadn't seen either of them amongst the prisoners so far. Maybe they'd escaped, or... He gulped, wrapping his arms around himself, shivering. A tap on his shoulder broke him out of his reverie. Gore leaned in. "My thoughts are this." He glanced around warily. "If we have been recruited," with a pause, "amongst other animals or creatures such as yourself." He leaned in closer until Scarecrow could feel his meaty breath. "And accounting for the Colosseum's proximity, I surmise we'll be forced into combat." Scarecrow stumbled, but Gore caught him. "I surmise we'll be forced to fight each other to the death." Scarecrow stumbled, but Gore caught him. A nearby key stopped to hoot as a prisoner near the front of the line took to the sky. Large brown and white-tipped majestic wings unfurled as the bird circled upward, but a deafening screech of pain tore through the air. The ascent stopped short as the bird plummeted, crashing to the ground. The prisoners halted as a key grabbed the bird's convulsing body by the neck and tossed it back into the line. "Another diminished race," Gore whispered. "The eagles were once thought gods of." if that works. So, all right, another diminished race. Gore thumped his forehead. That just won't make. Gore thumped his chest. The eagles were once thought gods of. Suddenly, cords of burning pain ripped through every inch of Scarecrow's body as he fell to his knees, reeling. He clawed at the collar, straw tightening, burning, dying, time losing. Finally, it passed. He gripped himself tightly, trying to catch his breath. Many other captives were also on the ground, disoriented. The distant hoots of keys alerted them to keep moving. Gore, with a distant expression, helped him back to his feet. Scarecrow walked in silence, noting the silhouette of a massive open-air domed structure in the distance, which had to be the Colosseum. It's a strange thing, Scarecrow wondered, why animals would treat others so cruelly. He peeked up and down the procession, but the closest keys were focused elsewhere. Why are these primates, keys, so cruel? Apparently, they've been underground for some time, only surfacing lately, Gore added thoughtfully. Scarecrow recalled the caverns with all the creators' homes, where he had found the red beanie. Instinctively, he clutched his side. The beanie, the egg, the gemstone, and quilt. Gone. He had lost everything. Was he a failure? He thought back to the dreams he had experienced both asleep and in the lake amok. Looking down at his hands, he murmured, "What is a dream?" The grizzly skidded to a halt. "What is a dream?" he whispered. "What is a dream?" Voice elevated. "I dream of mapping these lands to find it. You dream of, well, straw things, I'm sure." Gore leaned down, flicking the tail of an ember-scaled salamander, crawling in a line beside them, whose red eyes glared back, surprised. "This mander dreams of scaly things, no doubt." Patting the animal on the head, Gore slid out of range nonchalantly as the reptile's jaws snapped shut. Scarecrow reached for the grizzly to calm him down, but Gore hopped onto a rock, shouting, "These prisoners may dream of freedom!" A look of rage overtook his weathered face as the collar vibrated. Gritting through his teeth, he roared, "The keys dream of sport!" His disheveled fur stood on edge, holding his ground, trembling. Their leader of whimsy! Nearby animals halted, watching. Growls of the jaguar and raccoon intermingled with the yelps of a hyena, and even the cobra's hiss rose amongst the prisoners. The bare-chested Key, wearing Scarecrow's coat, hooted, "The Tiger King will enjoy your death, bear!" Scarecrow shuddered as 4 Keys surrounded Gore. One of them screeched, "Galhala!" The black obsidian collar tightened around Gore's neck, turning a deep shade of crimson. Scarecrow watched awestruck as Gore stood, sweat-drenched, body trembling. One of the Keys pointed at a strange, boomerang-shaped metal at his head, but another Key shoved it away, pointing off in the distance. Let's fix that. One of the Keys held a strange, boomerang-shaped metal pointed at his head, but another Scarecrow watched awestruck as Gore stood, sweat-drenched, body trembling. One of the Keys held a strange boomerang-shaped metal pointed at the grizzly's head, but another Key shoved it away, pointing off in the distance. But Gore finally dropped to a knee, shaking. Bowing his head, he howled, "I submit." The grizzly crashed to the ground, convulsing and roaring in pain. The Keys hopped in circles, clapping, hooting, and taunting, until Gore stopped shaking and he was forced back in line. Scarecrow clutched his head, tensing up for the incoming pain, but a resounding hoot signaled them to keep moving. Yeah. It wasn't until they were on the move and the Key had turned their attention away that Gore looked up with a wary wink. It wasn't until they were on the move and the Key had turned their attention away. It wasn't until they were on the move and the Keys had turned their attention away. It wasn't until they were on the move and the Keys had turned their attention away that Gore looked up with a wary wink. In between heavily controlled breaths, he uttered, "I asked." In between heavily controlled breaths, I asked before. What you saw. The silence stretched out until Scarecrow responded. The other animals? The grizzly's hardened gaze made him uncomfortable, but even as they marched, he couldn't look away. What are they afraid of, Scarecrow? The pain, Scarecrow blurted out. Mumbling under his breath, he added, the pain, Scarecrow blurted out, tracing the cool metal, tracing the cool obsidian of the collar. The pain, Scarecrow blurted out, tracing the obsidian of the collar with his fingertips. Mumbling under his breath, he added, the pain makes me feel helpless. And what 3 things have we learned? Without breaking eye contact, Gore waited. Scarecrow stared into the grizzly's eyes, searching for an answer. He looked around at the other prisoners until something dawned on him. He looked around at the other prisoners, darkened and distant expressions, until it dawned on him. We all feel the pain. Maybe we can work together. Gore snorted, surprised, accompanied by a low chuckle. The jag up there would eat you for breakfast, and that rabbit fellow back there keeps eyeing you like prey. Scarecrow glanced down the line at Cotton Ball, whose color-changing eyes shifted between orange and yellow. Even though the rabbit was looking away, his gaze felt intimidating. The word, the key used, strengthened the collar's pain threshold. Scarecrow tapped his chin. That word, the key used, strengthened the collar's pain threshold. Somehow. He leaned in. How were you able to withstand such, he gulped, pain? The grizzly glanced at the dipping moon off the horizon as his normal timbre lowered to a deadly thrall. Pain is illusion's fool. Scarecrow thought back to the entire incident, realizing that Gore must have stepped out of line to test the collar. Scarecrow thought back to the The grizzly glanced at the dipping moon off the horizon as his normal timbre lowered to a deadly thrall. Pain is illusion's fool. Grinning sideways at Scarecrow, he added, and only fools are distracted by illusions. Scarecrow thought back to the incident, realizing wondering if Gore had stepped out of line. Scarecrow thought back to the incident, wondering if Gore had engineered it. Wondering if Gore had stepped out of line purposely. Eyes wide, he raised a finger. Maybe this Tiger King won't be so bad. Gore spat and growled, turning back to face him. At least the Wolf King could have been reasoned with, he sighed. Death for us, most likely. Scarecrow gulped. Gore pulled him in by the chest, glaring. My life debt you will stretch. But this grizzly's promise remains steadfast. My life debt you will stretch, but this grizzly debt from the Muck Lake remains steadfast. A debt of muck will you break? Scarecrow shuddered as Dr. Fox's warning bounced inside his head. Was this what he meant? Somewhere deep down, he heard Cloth screaming. Feet forward, partner. We're here. So consumed by their dialogue, Scarecrow failed to spot the giant Colosseum looming overhead like a grim beacon in the moonlight. Metal, wood, and granite pillars tiered the upper levels of the mighty behemoth, offering obligatory glimpses into the shadows of ghosts' pasts. Pointed stakes of varying lengths adorn the monster. Pointed stakes of varying lengths adorned the monster like a protective shell against the barren wasteland. Even the lights refracted against the open air top, giving off an unnerving glow. Whoops and hoots echoed from within as 4 keys, clad in silver medals, emerged from behind an archway. They greeted the keys of their procession with strange sounds and acrobatics before the prisoners were forced to keep moving. As they approached the archway leading into a tunnel, sparse lights and yellow eyes greeted them from amidst the darkness ahead. Scarecrow glanced back at the wasteland as the first light crested over a distant horizon, and through the graying leaves of the single stalwart tree they had passed. How'd he miss such an oddity in this place? It swayed back and forth in the breeze as hopelessly as he felt. He seemed to miss a lot of things. Was he the problem? Hopefully his friends had fared better. Sighing, he turned around as a tiny golden snout stuck out of the tree's canopy. All right, and that is the first half. All right, so I'm much happier with that. Pass through. Hey, what's up, HH? Welcome. So thank you for asking. I absolutely love that. The Last Scarecrow is a dark fantasy action adventure novel where Scarecrow wakes up to a world withering under the nothingness, in a world where many animals, creatures, and beasts are the last of their kind. He must travel through the land, figuring out why creatures are losing their memories, while trying to figure out why he is the Last Scarecrow. So it's a really fun book. I've been working on it for a couple of years now, getting close. It's going to be published May 15th. So getting close. If you want to know more about it, you can go check out the website, thelastscarecrow.com. Yeah. So if you want to know more, I am super excited about it. And I'm so glad we got the website up. So whenever new people ask if you want to learn more information, the website really just has more details about the book right now. Yeah, I love it so much. I have so much fun with this. I should probably have the blurb memorized soon, so when somebody asks, I like have the blurb memorized. It's on my to-do list. I need to memorize it. I think I have like part of it memorized right now. But it's really cool. I'm right now I'm on chapter 23, I think. 23 or 24. This is about I want to say this is about 35. I'd say 35, 40% of the way through the novel with where we're at right now. Okay, so we just got to the end of this beat. And now Scarecrow's friends. So this is the first chapter where I have all three POV characters, where I have not only Scarecrow but his two other friends POVs in the same chapter. The majority of this novel is like 85% of the novel is Scarecrow's POV, which is why this is the first chapter that stands out, because the pacing is starting to pick up as we're getting closer to the events of the Colosseum of the Last. Goldscales lowered his head back. So I need to make sure this works, because I wanted this transition to be very like, I really wanted this transition to work. So hopefully his friends had fared better. Sighing, he turned around as a tiny golden snout stuck out of the tree's canopy. Goldscales lowered his head back within the dense grain canopy of the tree. Folding his wings, he spun about to face them, and in his deep, weathered voice, he spoke softly. Oh, let's see, we need more. Because we used weathered for gore earlier. Measured, and in his deep, measured voice. Folding his wings, he spun about to face them, and in his deep, measured voice, cracked. Folding his wings, he spun about to face them, and in his deep, cracked voice, he spoke softly. You're Scarecrow. Collared. And the crow? Pebble hopped up from her branch, wishing her useless dumb wings actually worked for once. Pebble hopped up from the branch, wishing her useless dumb wings actually worked for once. The golden dragonkin shook his head. Large bear. Large commotion. I guess his voice should be like more like dragony. I use that for Gore's voice. All right, let's try this again. Okay. Goldscales lowered his head back within the dense grain canopy of the tree. Folding his wings, he spun about to face them, and in his deep, cracked voice, he spoke softly. You're Scarecrow. You're Scarecrow. Collared. And the crow? Pebble hopped up from the branch, wishing her useless dumb wings actually worked for once. The golden dragonkin shook his head. Large bear. Large commotion. He uttered in a deeper tone, each word proving difficult. I wonder. Pebble stopped pacing long enough to fold her wings. That scarecrow's gonna be the death of me. She spun around and punched the tree, pretending like it didn't hurt. She spun around and punched the tree. Pretending like it didn't hurt, the pixie forced a grin instead. That scarecrow's gonna be death of me. She spun around and punched the tree. turning back to them slowly. She pretended. Actually, let's do that differently. Pretending like it didn't hurt, she turned back around. She turned back slowly. Pretending like it didn't hurt, she turned back slowly. And forced a grin instead. Leaning against the bark, she plucked a piece of fruit, twice her size, and bit down. Leaning against the bark, she plucked a piece of fruit twice her size and bit down. Her eyes lit up with ecstasy as a soft moan escaped her lips. At least, between bites, dumb fruit. I don't know if that... I don't think we need this dialogue. That just doesn't do anything. Hey, what's up, Laura? Welcome, my friend. Hope all is well. Raspy, gravelly, aged. Oh, those are actually some good ones. Raspy, large bear. He spoke in a deeper tone each word. Okay, cracked voice. About to face the man in his deep. Raspy, gravelly, aged. Actually, aged is perfect. And in his deep, aged voice, he spoke softly. Laura, you awesome. Hello, my friend. Hopefully Writing Vibe is treating you well. Maybe lower tone instead of deeper tone. He spoke in a lower tone. He spoke in a lower tone, each word proving difficult. Yeah, I think that works. Thanks for the recommend. Blue sidled up. Settled. I was like, I don't know how to say that word. Blue settled up. I was like, I hope I use that word correctly. All right. Blue settled up. Large, frosty eyes full of hope. Blue settled. Oh my goodness. Blue settled up beside her, large frosty eyes full of hope. Stopping mid-bite, Pebble rolled her eyes and tossed the rest of it to the blue dragonkin. To the blue dragonkin, who gulped it down in one bite. Blue trembled as her scales glowed softly. Blue trembled as her scales glowed softly, and a few bubbles escaped her mouth. Pebble snorted. All right, Bubbles. The blue dragonkin nuzzled against her in response. I forgot. I was trying out a nickname for the dragonkin instead of calling them red and blue. Bubbles is funny, but I was like, the problem is it pulls if I have her call blue Bubbles all the time, it does a little too much comedy later on when I need the moments to be more dramatic. Maybe I'll do it as like an inside joke type of thing. That could be funny. All right, Bubbles. The blue dragonkin nuzzled against her. The blue dragonkin nuzzled against her. Blue nuzzled against her in response. Actually, that's good. I think that's Blue nuzzled against her in response. I like that. Pebble patted her head and stretched, blocking out the first ray of sunlight to hit her face. Sun's up. Time to fly. Shortly. I'm so bored. Burn that. I'm bored. Pebble rose. And dumb Scarecrow's probably going to get himself killed tripping over a rock. Let's see. I need to open up my world building. I feel like I rely on Pebble using burn and spark too much. I want to expand her vocabulary a little bit with some of her other swear words. So I have to go to the story Bible. Let's see. Where's my story Bible? All right. We're going to be right back to that. So magic system, there's 7 essences in the world. Pebble generally tends to use the essences as derogatory. These are the ones that work the best. Splash that. Especially since she's with the blue dragonkin, that actually would make sense that would be on her mind. Breath, growth, epoch, spirit. These 4 don't work as well as curses. I'll have to get creative. Splash. I haven't really used splash. That's going to work. Splash that. I'm bored. Splash that. I'm bored. Pebble rose. And dumb Scarecrow's probably gonna kill himself tripping over a rock. And dumb Scarecrow's probably gonna get himself killed. Get himself killed tripping over a rock. Patience. No patience, dragon, Pebble emphasized. Pebble, no patience, dragon. No patience, dragon, Pebble emphasized with air quotes. Actually, let's go. No patience, emphasizing. Actually, yeah, I think we can do the air quotes, the action after. No patience, dragon, Pebble emphasized. I guess we could italicize it. No patience, dragon. But would that really work? I don't think that would work. No patience, dragon. No patience, dragon, Pebble emphasized with finger air quotes. Come on, it's light and the dragonkin wait. Pebble dropped her hands. Dumb dragons or dragonkin or whatever. The only thing I'm asking myself is when he speaks telepathically. The dragonkin wait, Goldscales thought with a finality. Pebble dropped her hands. Dumb dragons or dragonkin or whatever. Goldscales turned towards her, and after a moment of silence, unfamiliar these lands. Unfamiliar these lands. Colosseum knowledge. It's a gathering place for whichever tribe is on top. Last I ventured through here, looking at a fallen leaf. Looking at a fallen leaf, Pebble rubbed her head. Let's make this a new sentence. Looking at a fallen leaf, Pebble scratched her head. Pebble scratched. Looking at a fallen leaf, Pebble fidgeted. Pebble fidgeted with her hair, with her purple locks. Looking at a fallen leaf, looking at a fallen leaf, Pebble fidgeted with her purple locks, which she rarely ever did. Which she rarely ever did anymore. Which she rarely ever did. Looking at a fallen leaf, Pebble fidgeted with her purple locks. Yeah, I was like, I don't think we need that last tag. Who was we, and how did she know so much about the Colosseum? Who was we, and how did she know so much about, the Colosseum? She shook her head. Doesn't matter. Deal's a deal. You save Scarecrow, and help we might. A possible smirk crossed Goldscales' cracked lips. If clear path, egg and magic rock. Help we might. A possible smirk crossed Goldscales' cracked lips. If clear path, egg for magic rock. If clear path, egg for rock. Like I said, Pebble raised her hand to cover another incoming stream of light, cast by an effervescent dawn just beginning to shower their tree. Effervescent is an interesting choice. Did I use that correctly? I'm not even sure if I used this correctly. Like I said, Pebble raised her hand to shield her eyes. Pebble raised a hand to shield her eyes from another stream of light cast by the effervescent dawn, just beginning to shower the tree. The tree shook as a gust of wind gusted against it. The tree shook as a gust of wind blew past them. The tree shook as a gust of wind blew past them. As a gust of wind passed by. Pebble nearly fell back, but Bubbles kept her steady. But Bubbles, we're not going to use that as a main one. That'll be an inside joke. But Blue kept her steady. Pebble nearly fell back, but Blue kept her steady. Red screeched a low whine from her upside down position, tail wrapped around a branch, and fast asleep. Red screeched a low whine from her upside down sleeping position, tail wrapped around a branch. Goldscales approached her, nodding his forehead against hers. Goldscales approached the red dragonkin. Goldscales approached the red dragonkin, nodding his forehead against his sister. Startling awake, Red hissed. A burning ember glowed from deep within the back of her throat. Rolling her eyes, she covered her scar with one wing. Startling awake, Red hissed. A burning ember glowing from deep within the back of her throat. She blinked, snapped. She blinked, snapped her snout, her jaws shut, and rolled her eyes. Startling awake, Red hissed, a burning ember glowing from deep within the back of her throat. She blinked, snapped her jaw shut, and rolled her eyes. Covering her scar with one wing, she turned away. She sang once. Such melodies, Goldscales said sorrowfully. She sang once, such melodies, Goldscales' tone filled with such sorrow and despair. Hey, what's up, Miss Shadow? Welcome, my friend. You're always welcome. Well, always welcome to come do a little co-working sesh. What are you working on? Doing anything fun? Doing any fun writing projects this evening? I guess afternoon or morning, depending on where you're at. She sang once, such melodies, Goldscales' tone filled with sorrow and despair. Fists on hips, Pebble actually felt bad for the lot of him. It reminded her of someone, but she couldn't quite place it. Fists on hips, Pebble actually felt bad for the siblings. For the dragonkin, for the siblings. It reminded her of someone, but she couldn't quite place it. So what's with the three of you flying about this? So what's with the three of you flying about this foreign land of ours anyways? So what's with the three of you? What's with the three of you flying about this foreign land of ours anyways? Let's call us the lance what it is. What's with the three of you flying about the lands of the last anyways? The golden dragonkin snorted. and without turning away. The golden dragonkin snorted, and without turning away, he retorted. The golden dragonkin snorted, and without turning away, he retorted. The golden dragonkin snorted, and without turning away, he retorted. The golden dragonkin snorted, and without turning away, he retorted. What tiny pixie want with the tiny doll? What tiny pixie want with a tiny doll? What tiny pixie want with tiny doll? Hey, what's up, Crazy? Hello, my friend. Crazy root beer in the house. Well, slap me silly, color me yellow, and call me Big Bird. Hello there. Also, Golden Dragonkin. Oh man, Crazy. If I ever need a voice actor, I think you got the Golden Dragonkin. Right now, Pebble the Pixie is currently with the 3 Dragonkin. Gold Scale, she's calling the older one Gold Scales, the Golden Dragonkin, and then the 2 younger sisters, the Blue Dragonkin and the Red Dragonkin. Yeah. Maybe that's what Gold Scale's voice should be. She sang once. Because my Grizzly Bears is more like grrr. My Dragonkins, maybe I should be more like airy. She sang once. She sang once. Such melodies. She sang. Yeah, I don't know. I had to figure out the Dragonkins voices at some point. Fists on hips, Pebble actually felt bad for the siblings. It reminded her of someone, but she couldn't quite place it. What's with the three of you flying about the lands of the last anyways? The golden dragonkin snorted, and without turning away, he retorted, "What tiny pixie want with tiny doll?" Pebble reached into her pocket. That is his thing. Pebble reached into her pocket instinctively, stopping herself. How did he? Never mind. She looked down at her pocket. Pebble reached into her pocket instinctively, stopping herself. How did he? Never mind. She looked down at her pocket regardless. A soft breath alerted her to Goldscale's presence. A soft breath alerted her to Goldscale's a soft breath alerted her to Goldscale's presence. Presence is a good word. A soft breath alerted her to Goldscale's a A soft breath alerted her to Goldscale's form. To Goldscale's presence inches before her. A soft breath alerted her to Goldscale's standing within spitting distance. A soft breath alerted her to Goldscales, now standing within spitting distance. Well, that does actually kind of work for Pebbles. Now standing within punching distance. Spitting. Punching distance is such a Pebble thing. A soft breath alerted to Goldscales, now standing within punching distance. Scars mark our path. He nodded towards Red, as do yours. His gaze was penetrating, deep and ancient, with a hint of warmth. Pebble looked to the red dragonkin, wondering if it had to do with that scar. I don't think we need that. Goldscales unfurled his wings. Sisters. Red dropped onto the branch, while Bubbles, like, it's gonna have to be Blue. It's gonna have to be an inside joke. Red dropped onto the branch, while Blue hopped to attention. They maintained silent eye contact, each nodding in turn. Blue nuzzled against Pebble's shoulder before darting. Pebbles' shoulder. It's Pebble's shoulder. I was like, no, that's... Blue nuzzled against Pebble's shoulder before darting past a tree branch alongside Red and out of sight. Goldscales unfurled his wings. Sisters. Goldscales unfurled his wings. Sisters. Red dropped onto the branch while Blue hopped to attention. They maintained a sight. The three dragonkin maintained silent eye contact, each nodding in turn. Finally, Blue nuzzled against Pebble's shoulder before darting past a tree branch alongside Red and out of sight. Goldscales turned towards her. Monkeys unfocused. Unaware, yet control Colosseum. Monkeys unfocused. Unaware, yet control theirs. Pebble plucked at one of the fruits. Watching it regrow as a stream of light hit it. Pebble plucked at one of the fruits, watching it. I don't really describe the fruits. I realize I don't really make any descriptions of the fruits. I'm gonna have to add that as a to fix note. I don't want to deal with the fruit description right now. Okay. Where is my to-do list? We'll just add this chapter. Colosseum arc. Describe fruits. I just don't feel like describing that right now. Pebble plucked at one of the fruits, watching it regrow as a stream of light hit it. She could only shove it in her pocket before grabbing onto Goldscale's back. She shoved it in her pocket. And she shoved it into her pocket before grabbing onto before grabbing onto Goldscale's back. Woo! Crazy root beer. Looking forward to that, my friend. Looking forward to a Dragonkin tryout. You said after never mind. Oh, did I miss I know what you're saying. Monkeys unfocused. That was right before. Pebble got distracted. Pebble reached into her pocket instinctively, stopping herself. How did he? Never mind. No, because she's not talking in this sentence. Goldscales turned towards her. Monkeys unfocused, unaware yet control theirs. Pebble plucked at one of the fruits, watching it regrow as a stream of light hit it. She shoved it into her pocket before grabbing onto Goldscales' back. Watch, learn. Pebble climbed atop the dragonkin, watching the Colosseum tower before them in the rays of the dawn. Pebble climbed atop the dragonkin, watching the Colosseum tower before them in the rays of the dawn. Watch, learn. Pebble climbed atop the dragonkin. Pebble climbed atop the gold dragonkin, watching the Colosseum tower before them in the rays of the dawn. Her heart tugged at an old memory. Something terrible had occurred here, but like the rest of this fading world, who knows? As Goldie prepared to disembark, the realization hit her like a brick. As Goldie prepared to disembark, the realization hit her. The realization hit her head on. As Goldie prepared to disembark, the realization hit her. Well, I haven't really used the Goldie. As Goldie prepared to disembark, as Goldscales prepared to disembark, the realization hit her head on. Not only were her memories returning, but they were sticking. What changed? Was she here for Scarecrow? Or him? A tremor of a burn within her pocket went unnoticed as they dove through the canopy. A tremor of a burn. The tremoring familiar within her pocket went unnoticed as the tremoring within her pocket went unnoticed as they dove through the canopy and out of sight, just as a beak pierced through a boulder on the other side of the Colosseum's entrance. The tremoring familiar within her pocket went unnoticed as they dove through the canopy and out of sight. As they dove through the canopy. The tremoring familiar within her pocket went unnoticed as they dove through the canopy, just as a beak pierced through a boulder on the other side of the Colosseum's entrance. Hey, I appreciate you, Crazy. I was stopping by to say hey and hope you're doing well and have fun, man. Feel the dragon burn. I was like, I'll have to get I'll have to get the Dragonkin voice down eventually, at least sometime before the audiobook. You know what's funny? I'll talk about this tomorrow during Writers Group, but I realized that I'm using this third draft, the read aloud, as a way to also practice the character voices that I'm going to want to nail down for the audiobook version. I realized like quality audiobook narrators are generally able to distinguish different character voices and do it at least well enough. Like it doesn't have to be like crazy different, but has to be well enough to distinguish different characters. All right, but I mean, so that section with Pebble was short. I think it did what it needed to accomplish. We get Pebble and the Dragonkin are waiting for, basically it looks like, to scout. Yeah, so we do some foreshadowing with Pebble. We kind of see her being herself being anxious. She's wanting to help Scarecrow. We also are referencing her that this is the first time that she recognizes, and she's calling out that she remembers, that she's not forgetting her memory this time around. We do some fun with Pebble and the Dragonkin, slight character development. But I feel like it's brief and I feel like it works. I think it does what it needs to. All right. And of course, on to the wonderful Mr. Crow. Blandstone, pulling his beak out, he craned his head at the black and white smelly one to stick out his tongue. Blandstone, pulling his beak out, he stuck his tongue out at the black and white smelly one. He stuck his tongue out at pulling his beak out. He stuck his tongue out. Pulling his beak. Pulling his beak out. He stuck out his tongue at the black and white smelly one. Pulling his beak back, he stuck out his tongue at the black and white smelly one. She eyed him, amused, cold like the land dwellers of old. They once had eyes too. Pulling his beak back, he stuck his tongue out at the black and white smelly one. Mr. Crow. Pulling his beak back, Mr. Crow stuck out his tongue at the black and white smelly one. She eyed him, amused, cold like the land dwellers of old. They'd once had eyes too. Her blade tapped the edge of the farthest stone as the first ray of dawn's light crept against the rocky outcropping. The blade twice her size. The blade twice her size tapped the edge of the farthest stone as the first ray of dawn's light crept across the rocky out as the first rays of dawn's light crept across the rocky outcropping. The blade twice her size. The tip of the blade twice her size, tapped the edge. The blade, twice her size, tapped the edge of the farthest stone as the first rays of dawn's light crept across the rocky outcropping. Lowering herself into the fading darkness, the smelly one never let her eyes off him, even as her raised hand signal alerted the bushy-tailed one to stop. 4 tiny eyes. Four tiny eyes skittered from the 4 tiny eyes skittered from beneath the bushy one's tail, blinking up at him. 4 tiny eyes skittered from beneath the bushy one's tail, blinking up at him. He wet his beak. Eyes. Oh, Mr. Crow. Oh, Mr. Crow. Yo, Maddie in the house. Man, police school has been rough assignment-wise. Sorry for not being able to make the streams. You're totally all good, my friend. Tomorrow's writers group. If you're free, you should come join us. We've been having a great time doing all our writers stuff. Yeah, but that's cool. That's cool that you're making it. That's cool that school's been crazy busy though for you, my friend. I can only imagine what that's like. Police school is probably super hard and really like taxing. Good for you though, man. Good for you. The blade, twice her size, tapped the edge of the farthest stone as the first rays of dawn's light crept across the rocky outcropping. The smelly one held out a blade, twice her size. She tapped the tip against the edge of the farthest stone as the first rays of light. She tapped the tip against the ground. As the first rays of dawn's light crept across the rocky outcropping. Lowering herself into the fading darkness, the smelly one never let her eyes off him, even as her raised hand signal alerted the bushy-tailed one to stop. Pacing. 4 tiny eyes skittered from beneath the bushy one's tail, blinking up at him. 4 tiny eyes skittered out from within the bushy one's tail, blinking up at him. He wet his beak. Eyes. They waited in silence, only a tickling breeze gracing them, until a figure emerged from behind a rock, twirling the coral wand which refracted sunlight in all directions. We don't need the waited in silence. A figure emerged from behind a rock, twirling the coral wand which refracted sunlight in all directions. A figure emerged from behind a rock, twirling the coral wand which refracted sunlight away from them. Finally. Finally, the smelly one hissed. Missed you too, darling Stenchy. Audie purred deeply as she rolled between two nearby rocks amongst the rock buffet. Oh, wow. I did a lot of metaphorical writing in this section, trying to get the Mr. Crow POV. Oh, man. Oh, wow. Yeah, sounds like you have a crazy busy schedule, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, like, life happens. I'm sure you'll probably join us again when life settles down. Woo! Well, hey, you know what? I'll be here streaming. Every day I'm streaming, never stopping. Hustling. But that's good though. At least you've been busy and like making some progress with life stuff, man. That's really good. Yeah, it's these sessions are more interactive because I'm on the third draft of the book right now, and my third draft is like a read aloud and light edit. So that's why these sessions are a little more interactive now. When I go back to finishing up the back end of the book, I'll probably move back to writing sprints because I need to do some developmental fixes to the end. Yeah, I'm on the third draft of it. And I also have a soft publishing date, Maddie. I'm aiming for publishing Scarecrow May 15th. If we can get through it. So hopefully, congratulations. Last time I was here was second. Yeah, so I want to say 70% of the book is this. So like what I did was I paused the end of the second draft so I could get the third draft started because I needed to do a third draft so I could start getting out the beginning of the book for feedback. So I've started moving through the third draft of the book. The first quarter of the book now, the first 25% is in the hands of beta readers. I basically split up the Scarecrow book into 4 acts because the end of the book isn't going to affect the beginning of the book because developmentally that's already set in stone. So I realized I went back so I could start getting feedback. I'm trying to speed up the process. So like I'm minimizing the time I'm waiting for feedback. May 15th. May 15th is the soft publication date. So stay tuned, my friend. We'll see. Hopefully it's a good book. hopefully it's an epic adventure like I hope it will be. Let's see. A figure emerged. So let me see because I had to fix a few things. So a figure emerged from behind a rock, twirling a figure, the wet one, emerged from behind a rock, twirling the coral wand which refracted sunlight away from them. Finally, the smelly one hissed. Missed you too, darling Stenchy. The wet one purred deeply as she rolled between two nearby rocks. As she rolled within the rock buffet. As she rolled amongst the rock buffet. Misty too dull and stenchy, the wet one purred deeply as she rolled amongst the rocks. Looking around, she nodded to the bushy one. Told you we'd get the bushy. Let's see how to refer to the squirrel. Bushy. Bushy. The bushy one shoved. The bushy one shoved a pack. The bushy one shoved a pack into the wet one's chest. To the wet one's chest. And set another pack down behind them. The wet one looked to him with a grin and a nod. Holding up all right, Scarecrow? Save the younglings. Yes. And my lady? The younglings. Thanks for the reminder. And my lady? The smelly one blinked wordlessly. The smelly one blinked, unamused. Leaning towards her, the wet one whispered. The wet one whispered. Your old pal. Leaning towards her, the wet one whispered. Your old pal is here. Leaning towards her, the wet one whispered. Your old pal is here. Your old pal is here. Your old pal is here. Who? The smelly one stood up while remaining within the rocks, the shadows. The smelly one stood up while remaining within the rocks confines. No, I actually already answered that. I've already dealt with that. Leaning towards her, the wet one whispered, your old pal is here. Laughing, she tossed a shiny. Laughing, she tossed a shiny in the air, but the smelly one knocked it to the ground. Laughing, she tossed a shiny in the air, but the smelly one knocked it to the ground. I know, the smelly one. I know, the smelly one muttered, moving briskly away from the rock and deeper into the outcropping's remaining shadows. I know, the smelly one moved briskly. The smelly one moved briskly away from the rock and deeper into the outcroppings and deeper into the remaining shadows of the outcroppings. I know. The smelly one moved briskly away from the rock and deeper into the remaining shadows. And deeper into the remaining rocks, shadows. Which were losing the war to the incoming sunlight. I know. The smelly one moved briskly away from the rock and deeper into the remaining rock shadows, which were losing the war to the incoming sunlight. The smelly one moved briskly away from the rock and deeper into the remaining rock shadows, which were losing the tug of war to the incoming sunlight. Mr. Crow flew over to the shiny on the ground. Taking a peck at it, he wet his beak and chomped. Taking a peck at it, he wet his beak and chomped down, crushing the shiny with a single gargantuan bite, swallowing it completely. 10 eyes looked at him. 10 eyes looked at him. 10 eyes looked on him. 10 eyes looked at him. Eyes looked at him. Eyes look. And then we go into interiority. Sure, huh? Oh, I love that we're going descriptive with animals. Is that the whole novel? No, so it's just this POV. It's because Mr. Crow is basically a character kind of with extreme dementia, I think is the best way we're calling this right now. So he forgets we were introduced to these animals that he's with in a previous chapter, but he's already forgotten their names. So but we'll get the names back in just a second as Mr. Crow kind of goes in and out of remembering. Yeah, she tossed her one of the tiny guns. Yeah, as like instead of the guns, I think I'm just going to call it a shiny for now. Because Mr. Crow is definitely an unreliable narrator. I'm going to have to see if it works or not. I think it works if I just call it shiny. Leaning towards her, the wet one whispered, "Your old pal is here." Laughing, she tossed a shiny in the air, but the smelly one knocked it to the ground. Maybe if I do that, if we make it italics, so we'll know that it's Mr. Crow. Mr. Crow flew over to the shiny on the ground. Taking a peck at it, he wet his beak and chomped down, crushing the shiny with a single gargantuan bite, swallowing it completely. Taking a peck at it, he wet his beak and chomped down, crushing the shiny with a single gargantuan bite, swallowing it completely. It is. It's an actual. I mean, kind of. It's it's like a type of gun. It's so the guns that the tribe uses in this area, they're like net guns. They're basically guns that shoot these like magical types of nets that basically trap creatures and animals. Yeah, I mean, Mr. Crow is a very eccentric character. Mr. Crow is a very, very eccentric character. Um, everybody when they sit in on the readings, they either seem to be Team Crow. Mr. Crow is eccentric, crazy, and says the weirdest shit, or Team Pebble the Pixie, who's very fiery, feisty, and says exactly what's on her mind. I love both of them for different reasons. So Mr. Crow flew over to the shiny on the ground. Taking a peck at it, he wet his beak and chomped down, crushing the shiny with a single gargantuan bite, swallowing it completely. 10 eyes looked at him. Eyes looked at him. Eyes look. I probably have to set this up. Images flashed before his eyes. Images flashed before his eyes. Actually, let's go. Recollections flashed fervently. Eyes look. Recollections flashed fervently through him. Recollections flashed fervently through him. So we're setting that up. Eyes look. Recollections flashed fervently through him. Eyes of the scarecrow and flying trickster falling. Eyes of the tin wizard's rusting death. Eyes of the red demon taunting sky's light. Eyes of the red demon taunting sky's light. Eyes of 10,000 winged kin to command. Eyes for guidance. Eyes for salvation. Eyes for the end. Eyes missing. Eyes missing. Whose eyes missing? Yeah, so our fragmented our fragments. This Mr. Crow does 10 eyes looked at him. All right, I was like, I had to make sure. Yeah, I play around with a lot of fragments. 10 eyes looked at him. Eyes looked at him. Eyes look. Recollections flashed fervently through him. Eyes of the scared crow and flying trickster falling. Eyes of the tin wizard's rusting death. I don't think we need ellipses here. Eyes of the scared crow and flying trickster falling. Let's capitalize because this is Pebble and Scarecrow. Eyes of the scared crow and flying trickster falling. Eyes of the tin wizard's rusting death. Eyes of the red demon taunting sky's light. Eyes of 10,000 winged kin to command. Eyes for guidance. Eyes for salvation. Eyes for the end. Eyes missing. Eyes missing. Whose eyes missing? Mr. Crow shook his head as the myriad reality returned to enrapture his senses. Mr. Crow shook his head as the myriad realities returned to enrapture his senses. He hopped on a rock. The Colosseum stood tall with its hedges, spikes, and upper archways. The Colosseum stood tall. Its hedges, spikes, and upper archways meant to instill fear. The Colosseum stood. Mr. Crow shook his head as the myriad realities returned to enrapture his senses. Everything. Each smell, each smell, each detail, and smells, details, and sounds became crystal clear to him. He hopped on a rock. Inspecting the fortress. He hopped on a rock, preparing for the assault. Actually, let's leave it at that. He hopped on a rock. The Colosseum stood tall. Its hedges, spikes, and upper archways were meant to instill fear. He guffawed. A lone, graying tree stood resolute opposite the other entrance, but all was quiet. He sniffed the air. These wastelands were... He sniffed the air. Dust. He sniffed the air. Sky. He sniffed the air, smelling creatures of the sky? Impossible. Dead. He sniffed the air, smelling He sniffed the air, smelling creatures of the sky. Impossible. Dead. Yeah, I'm wondering if I should leave that. I mean, I'm basically just trying to refer to. He sniffed the air, smelling wings, smelling sweat-drenched scales. Fragrant wings and pungent skunk. Blah. These wastelands were bleak. Wastelands that weren't wastelands. These wastelands were bleak. Wastelands. These wastelands were bleak. Wastelands that weren't wastelands. These wastelands were bleak. The wastelands that were never meant to be a wasteland. The wastelands that were never meant to be a wasteland. He noted the layers of diminutive water residue amongst their boulder encampment. 400 or 600? Ruffling his feathers, he stood at attention. Caw! Scanning the area, he then flew between Lady Skunk and Audie, breaking off their silent exchange. Scanning the area, he then flew between Lady Skunk and Audie, breaking off their silent exchange. Let's go with that. Ruffling his feathers, he then flew between Lady Skunk and Audie, breaking off their silent exchange. A commanding presence overtook his being as the smells of the press floated on the wings of the Borscht Coliseum. Ruffling his feathers, he then flew between Lady Skunk and Audie, breaking off their silent exchange. The squirrel and the mice watched him cautiously. While the squirrel and the mice watched him cautiously. Without blinking an eye, he waited until the attention was his once again. Are we the games of our deceit, Lady Skunk? Was met with a snort. Does one wait for defeat? Otificus Hawthorne the 10th, the otter grinned. His tone. His tone, proud. His tone, proud, matured. And with great, and with, his tone became proud. His tone became proud, matured, and with great, and with his tone became proud, ancient, and cut. His tone became proud, ancient, and cut like a knife. His tone became proud, ancient, and direct. Are we the games of our deceit, Lady Skunk? He was met with a snort. Does one wait for defeat? Otificus Hawthorne the 10th. The otter grinned. And Squirrel, with a glance over his shoulder, what is your name? Taken aback, the squirrel rose from her hunched position. Maisie. Is waiting on the death of love your prerogative, Maisie? The otter's low clapping returned his attention to her. Looks like Sir Crow has come to play, she nudged Lady Skunk, whose cold demeanor had been replaced with a faraway look of amusement. The skunk crept forward, remaining within the confines of the boulder's withering shadow, and sniffed him. She rubbed the hilt of the giant blade, which stuck out from over her shoulder. I don't think I actually had her sheath the blade, so I think there's two things I need to fix. I don't think she sheathed the blade. I forgot to have her put it away earlier. And then all right, so I had to do those setups. The skunk, okay, so the otter's low clapping returned his attention to her. Looks like Sir Crow has come to play, she nudged Lady Skunk, whose cold demeanor had been replaced with a faraway look of amusement. The skunk crept forward, remaining within the confines of the boulder's withering shadow, and sniffed him. She rubbed the hilt of the giant blade, which stuck out from over her shoulder. Perhaps this crow is the one. Lady Skunk. Lady Skunk sneered. Perhaps this crow is the one. Turning to the otter. You fancy eyeless fools. You do fancy eyeless fools. Mr. Crow cawed. She laughed dryly, ignoring him. I must see the activation myself if we are to reclaim, eyeing the other sideways, them. With a spin and a scurry of movement, one of the bags was swiped from the ground, and Lady Skunk dashed away between a rock formation, remaining within the dawn's few remaining shadows. Audie leaned over a most misshapen rock, inspecting the Colosseum before spinning around with a look of devilish delight. She motioned for their motley crew to gather in. The squirrel snorted as the squirrel crossed her arms. The squirrel snorted as she rubbed her golden brown fur coat and crossed her arms. Head bobbing in all directions, she never let her guard down before approaching. Each of the mice traveled down. We'll go Maisie. Maisie snorted as she rubbed her golden brown fur coat and crossed her arms. Head bobbing in all directions, she never let her guard down before approaching. Each of the mice traveled down her forearms, sniffing the air cautiously, while Mr. Crow hopped over to the otter, hopped over to Audie. Hopped over, ignoring the obvious tomfoolery. Out with it, Otter. The glint in your eyes indicates a plan. Mr. Crow spoke plainly. Out with it, Otter. The glint in your eyes indicates a plan. Audie nodded. Bold and daring, Sir Crow. I like your style. She winked, addressing all four of them. We at Autifficus Skunk United, glancing over her shoulder, have kept our promise until we nearly became prisoners, Maisie spat out. And thank you to our fine-feathered savior, Sir Crow, for saving us from such a terrible plight. Am I right? She nudged Mr. Crow playfully and used her foot to draw a circle in a patch of dirt. We have yet an obstacle before us, which will take cunning. Audie pointed at her head with both fingers. Strength. She spun around and flexed. Courage. She waved a finger at the mice. And mostly, so far the only trait we've witnessed, Maisie stayed with an eye roll, is incompetence. She pointed at the Colosseum. The mice giggled in unison. Incompetence. She pointed at the Colosseum. We need to go in now. The mice giggled in unison. No, we don't need that. The mice giggled in unison. Incompetence. These primates might be lackluster in strategy, but organized, they are not. You promised to rescue. You promised to rescue. We expect a rescue. Post haste. She leaned over. Maisie continued. These primates might be lackluster in strategy, but organized that they are not. You promised rescue. A rescue. I expect a rescue. Post haste. I expect a rescue. She leaned over Audie, a fire in her eyes. She leaned over Audie, a fire in her eyes. Her own bushy tail stood erect, matching her growing frustration. And despite old feathers over, and despite the bird over here, and despite the bird over here, Sir Crow the Savage, Sir Crow responded. The wand was in Audie's hands in a flash as she sidestepped the squirrel, as she sidestepped Maisie, and pointed to the ground, drawing circles in the dirt. True, these primates aren't the smartest chimps in the shed, but this Colosseum is invadable, and the plan. Muttering under his breath, Sir Crow the Savage. Sir Crow repeated the name over and over. You liked Old Feather. I know. And despite, I know. I was like, it's because like I don't know if Maisie is much of a name caller. That's why. I'll leave it in just for you, Maddie. And despite old feathers over here, I'll leave it in just for you. I'm not sure if the name calling works for the squirrel or not, but you know what? We'll have fun. Woo! Sir Crow the Savage, Sir Crow responded. The wand was in Audie's hand in a flash as she sidestepped Maisie and pointed to the ground, drawing circles in the dirt. True, these primates aren't the smartest chimps in the shed, but this Colosseum is invadable. And the plan, muttering under his breath, Sir Crow muttered under his breath. Sir Crow muttered under his breath. Sir Crow the Savage. He repeated this name over and over. He repeated the name over and over. As the others, he repeated the name over and over, drowning out the others' words. He watched. He blinked. Blinking, he watched the ground. Blinking, he watched the circles drawn into the dirt. Blinking, he watched Audie's display. Blinking, he watched the otter's display. Thanks so much, my friend. Appreciate you. Good luck with that class, and good luck with powering through everything. I'm sure you'll push through, and you'll be there before you know it. Sir Crow muttered under his breath. Sir Crow the Savage. He repeated the name over and over, drowning out the other's words. Blinking, he watched the otter's display. The ground was inlaid with circles upon bugs, upon earth, upon eyes. Eyes held secrets to souls. Souls held secrets too. What were his secrets? And the dining hall or throne room, Tiger Boy is a bit. Wand light makes circles. Light makes circles. He was a circle. No, he was a light. Light equals circle. Was his light circle equal? And the prisoners, circles, lights, savage, eyes, bugs, food. You see what I mean? The bushy one exclaimed. Unreliable. Sir Crow found himself rolling around in the dirt. Rolling around the dirt in circles. Rolling around in circles in the dirt. Sir Crow found himself rolling around. Crow found himself rolling around in circles in the dirt as he looked up at the sky. 6 eyes gazed down at him. The wet one stood with one hand extended to him and the hint of a smile playing across her lips. He wet his beak. Clouds looked yummy. He'll be dead if we trust. Shh, shh, shh. Sir Crow found himself, perched atop the wet one's arm as he felt the subtle breeze in the air, as he felt a subtle breeze. What was the structure before them? Importantly, when was food? Where were eyes? He wet his beak. Sir Crow? Who was this Sir Crow? Who was this Sir Crow? Crow looked up into the eyes of the wet one. Her smile was warm and welcoming. Her smile was warm and welcoming, despite the bushy-tailed one's groans in the background. Despite the bushy-tailed one's groans. Save the younglings, he called. Save the younglings, she asked, eyes twinkling. Caw, save the younglings, he repeated back to her. Ready to hear Operation Eyes in the Sky? Crow nodded. She winked and opened her mouth, directing her attention to the bushy-tailed one. Once more. Crow watched the 4 tiny eyes staring back at him. He hopped forward, wetting his beak. The rodents, with tails wide, skittered back amongst the fur, hiding. He hopped to the ground, listening to the sounds of his stomach. Rock buffet. Cloud buffet? He glanced up at the sky, spotting a golden bird in the distance. Golden bird. Did golden birds have eyes? He shrugged, pierced the nearest rock with his beak, and tried to savor bland stone. There we go. And there's the end of that chapter. Man, woof. I was like, what a chapter. So it's interesting because we have 3 different POVs, and I'm really trying to make the narration for the POVs feel as different as possible. Mr. Crow so far has been the hardest POV to capture. I feel like it's getting there. I don't feel like it's perfect yet. I think I felt the same way with his last POV chapter. But granted, Mr. Crow doesn't have very many POV segments. He has 1 POV chapter, and then I think he has 4 POV scenes. So it's a total of 5 POV segments. But I'm gonna have to get the style down. This is probably one that I'm probably gonna need help with my editor as I try to kind of nail his voice and really differentiate it from the others without using too many fragments and throwing the readers off. So, awesome. Well, I feel very accomplished. So I'm glad that I was able to get through that chapter. I feel very happy with what we were able to accomplish. Yes, on to the chapter 24, introducing our midpoint antagonist. So the antagonist of the Colosseum. This is a really fun chapter. Yeah, I like how the pacing of that last chapter. I think the pacing of the crow scene works. I think it's more just style, having to improve that. So it kind of feels like it's Mr. Crow speak. So very cool. The next chapter, the pacing really picks up as we're getting close to some crazy scenes. So thank you for joining me for this writing sprint. Hopefully you're able to kind of get a feel for that 3rd draft. I'll be here all day, every day. I'll be back tomorrow with our Right Now Writers group. Same time, same place, 4 Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, as we're joined by other writers in the community. If you enjoyed this stream, tap that like button. Help us show the algorithm that writing streams are cool. All right, my friends. Unfortunately, this brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. Words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. It's time to write
now.
Sorry.
Right now, not right now, but right now. Read now, right now.